Hello, hello. We meet again. Let's get through this. First off, thank you for all of the support on the channel. Everyone that's been sharing these videos, talking about the findings. It's appreciated. And if you enjoy this type of content, if you enjoy this type of review, like this multi-layered, multi-day review on a product, then leave a like and subscribe because I plan on doing more stuff like this. I'll probably do the same with the A7S III when that gets released. And been definitely meaning to make more of these types of videos on this channel. So stay subscribed. Secondly, I don't want anyone thinking that I'm disputing anyone else's numbers. That's not what this was all about. That's not what this is for. This is just my data point. This is just what I've experienced and how I've been able to figure out a way to kind of work with this camera. And this has just been all my experience. So if someone else has a different time or if someone else has different experiences, then it is what it is. I'm not trying to fool anyone into thinking that this camera is more than something it's not. I'm not even trying to get anyone to buy this camera. I'm just putting out the information that I've been getting and sending it out as objectively as possible, as unbiased as possible. And to anyone that thinks like I'm on a Canon payroll and I'm meant to make this video or I'm meant to make their cameras look good or make them seem better than they are, I've been shooting Sony for a lot longer than I've been shooting Canon, and I also have much more Sony gear than I have Canon gear, especially the Canon RF stuff. I only just started getting into Canon again with the EOS R, and I've been shooting Sony basically since the A6000 was released. So that puts that to rest. And I know this is not the majority, it's just a few people kind of really trying to nitpick at this video and trying to wonder why I'm doing it. That's the reason. I found these findings. I've really enjoyed my time with the camera. I like multi-layered detailed reviews on products. When a new product comes out, I watch so many videos on it. So I figured, why don't I just do that? Why don't I just make multiple videos really digging into the camera and then just uploading that? That's just what I'm going to be doing here on this channel. And also, a lot of this overheating testing stuff, just the testing on this camera in general, it is time intensive and it is resource intensive. So if you like this stuff and you want to see more of this from this channel, then all I ask is that you like, subscribe, and check out my social media over on Twitter at NoLifeDigital. That's all I ask. That's the only thing I need in return from you guys. I've been doing YouTube and content creation for over 5 years now, almost 6 years now, on another channel. And I've done it completely independently. I've never taken any sponsors on that channel. I've never done any sort of advertising on that channel. And I would like to do the same sort of thing in the tech gaming culture scene as well. So we'll see if it's successful because this is a much more competitive scene than the vaping scene. But this is also one that I'm equally as passionate about. And I think this is the type of content that I plan to produce on here. It will have some type of audience. So just stay tuned. Getting into my second overheating results. I haven't done the outdoor test. It actually looks like it might rain and I need maybe a good 2 solid hours of outdoor time to kind of really test that. So I promise that's coming, but I did test a bunch of other things. So first off, I tested it with the Canon battery that comes with the new R5s, which is the LPE6H batteries or something like that. But essentially what happened is that the battery dies before the camera shows any sort of overheating warning. So I did the same setup, 4K HQ, all eye, 30 frames per second. All right, test number 2. I want to see if the Canon batteries make any difference in the camera. So I just put a Canon battery in there, the new Canon batteries that they just released with the R5. I still haven't put a card in there. It's been recording for about 10 minutes. I started at 14:22. It's now 14:31. So we're gonna see how long this one goes on for. We'll see. We'll compare the numbers. It should be completely cool now from the time that I started that last test to this test. But let's go. I didn't have any cards in the camera, just the battery. And the battery ended up just dying before the camera showed any sign of overheating. We're about an hour in, no overheating warnings, nothing. Just to show you kind of where we're at. It looks like the battery is going to die before you have to worry about it overheating. About an hour, 45 minutes. Maybe around there. But it looks like the battery is going to die before the camera overheats. So the battery is not the issue. which is great. Which you don't need to keep it with a dummy battery. You don't need to keep it with some sort of like, you know, D-tap or anything like that. You can just use the Canon batteries, and you'll probably get around 2 hours of external footage. You'll get around 2 hours of using this with an external recorder, 4K HQ. Not bad, not bad. When I took the battery out, it was pretty much cold to the touch, maybe slightly warm, and the time on that was around 2 hours. So I could imagine if you're swapping that battery, you're probably gonna get the 3 to 4 hour time that I've been getting without cards in the camera. So that's excellent. You don't need to be attached to an AC outlet, and you don't always have to have a dummy battery, which is great because I know a lot of filmmakers like to do the Atomos on top, and they run everything, they D-tap everything into another power source, and that's going to be a great way to make sure you're limiting the overheating as much as possible and really giving you the best times. But if you don't have that D-tap, if you're just running off batteries like the Canon battery and the battery on the Atomos, which is how I have this set up here. I guess I'll just show you that right here, how I have this set up. But if you want to just use the Canon batteries, it seems like you should be okay. I mean, at least 2 hours. You'll probably get more than that. Again, remember that's with no cards in it and a 4K HQ, all that other stuff. Now, I also wanted to do a test where I had both the cards in, so the SD card and the CFExpress, as well as the dummy battery. And I wanted to run it until it overheated and then take the cards out to see if it got rid of the overheat warning or changed anything. It's currently 11:02. I have an SD card in there. We also have CFast in there. We're just gonna let it run, see how long this goes for. Once it got to that point, which was actually 2 hours, which is the upper tier of the times that you can get with this camera, with the cards in the camera. So that's pretty good. I mean, I got 2 hours with both of the cards in. So it's about to be midnight. There's a CFExpress in here. There's an SD card in here. And when I first put that in there, it showed that it had 9 minutes and 57 or 58 seconds left on the overheating timer. It's about an hour in. It says it's at 5 minutes. Again, we're at 4K fine. This is C-Log. Running to the Atomos Ninja. All right, we got the overheat warning. We're at 1 minute left on the overheat timer. It's only been about an hour 45 minutes, almost 2 hours. It'll probably make it 2 hours. There we go. Let's turn it off. Let's take both out. Actually, let's just keep the SD in. Still got an overheat warning. So we're gonna take the card. We're gonna take the SD card out. Now this is warm. I wouldn't say it's hot, but it's pretty warm. Yeah, we still have the overheat warning on. So about 2 hours with the SD cards in there. That's the time that I got. I have a feeling this is gonna shut down because what happens is once the overheat warning goes on, it seems like it's going to shut down unless you turn the camera off. The thing that I've noticed is that when the camera overheats, when it gets to the point where it overheats and it shuts down, the recovery on that seems to be much longer than if you shut it down prior to it overheating and shutting down. So it looks like it doesn't want you to actually overheat it to the point of shutting down. I'm gonna let this sit for a while. We're gonna do more testing tomorrow. But it does look like the SD cards, the CFExpress cards, make a difference. But it did overheat and shut down, and then when I removed the cards, the overheat warning was still there, and it didn't really make a difference. So I would have had to let the camera cool down at least a little bit before I could record back into 4K HQ or any other overheating modes. I will say too, the card was relatively warm. I wouldn't say it was hot, but it was relatively warm, and compared to any other component, it was the warmest. So the camera doesn't get warm at all, the battery didn't get warm at all, but that card, the CFExpress card, was relatively warm. So that just leads me to believe more so that this is a CFExpress card issue. Not to mention there is another article that was released today that showcases that these cards are having problems with heat and thermal throttling, and I'll just show that on the screen now. But it's just another added data point that it seems to be the card being the bottleneck in all of this. It just seems as if the software is tuned to really favor the heat of the CFExpress maybe over any other component. And that kind of sucks for this new media that's very expensive. I wonder if there's going to be like overheat protection on these cards. This could be a much bigger issue than just, hey, I got a couple more hours out of my R5. This could be a fundamental flaw in an entire storage media. I'm very curious to wonder if Sony's new CFExpress Type B cards are going to run into overheating issues as well, or thermal throttling issues as well. So that's something that needs to be tested and needs to be thoroughly looked at once the A7S III gets here. And by the way, if you want to see A7S III testing, subscribe here. I'm gonna get that camera. So I'll be running it through its paces. And lastly, in terms of speculation on if the camera is actually outputting a 4K HQ file. So some contention was brought up that the camera may just be outputting 1080p to the Atomos. Trust me, I made sure to test that, and I'll show you here, but the Atomos does register that it is a 4K file. And then when I take the recording, which I'll show here now, you can see that there's a clear difference in the quality between 4K HQ as well as regular 4K. So that's not an issue. Without the cards in the camera, it is outputting a 4K downsampled image to the Atomos, as well as just a regular 4K image if that's what you want. It's whatever the camera is set up to be. And I do want to state again, all of this testing is done with overheat control turned off. I haven't even done any testing with overheat control turned on. I'm not sure if it's going to make that much of a difference, but during that 4-hour test, it was only when I turned the screen on at the 4 hours when it shut down, when it gave me that overheat warning. But it was a very fast overheat warning, shut down, let it sit for 5 minutes, turned it back on, shot another 20 minutes, easily 20 minutes of 4K HQ, no overheat warnings, and I'm sure I could have gotten at least an hour out of it, but I'm starting to think it could have went on for another few hours. I know, a lot of data, but this is all very important for anyone that's seriously thinking about getting this camera and using it for filmmaking. There's also another data point added. There's another YouTuber who claimed he got 2 hours of external recording and it wasn't breaking a sweat. He got no overheat warnings. And Gerald Undone actually contacted him and let me know that he also did not have cards in the camera. So shout out to that channel. Shout out Gerald Undone. Shout out to everyone that's been really supportive and helping out in this situation. Hopefully we can get some sort of actual answer from Canon and address it in some way. We were wondering, did I figure out some type of hack and I'm basically melting my sensor? I don't think that that's the case because again, the camera's not even warm and we do know that the camera shuts down. It does overheat, it does shut down. It's at 4 hours, but there is some sort of temperature limit there. There is some sort of temperature sensor. So I don't think that that's a problem either. Now with all of this out of the way, I'm pretty confident in all of my overheating numbers. You can see that in the link in the description. Those are my concrete numbers so far, except for I need to test 4K 60 crop mode and I need to test an outdoor overheating test. But other than that, all of those numbers, I'm 100% confident in saying that's it. Not only that, but this camera, if you're a filmmaker, if you're a documentarian, if you're a wedding photographer, hybrid videographer, shooter, if you're someone that needs to shoot video, I would highly recommend you go with the R5 with the Atomos Ninja, which is going to be a price of a whopping $5,100. That's including an Atomos bundle that comes with a 1TB SSD and the card reader, but that's not including a lens for the RF mount. So it's a very pricey setup to shoot 4K HQ, downsample 4K HQ reliably. That being said, you also gain an amazing photography camera on the side of that. So it might be worth it to you if you are that dual hybrid shooter, which I am. And that's one of the things about the Sony that really gives me pause because I've used the Sony a7S II. I've shot photos with it. It's not a photo camera. It's a videography camera. And that's something that you need to think about. Is $5,100 for a true, reliable 50-50 hybrid worth it to you? That's pricey because you're starting to get into cinema pricing. Now, what's interesting as well is that Canon is also rumored to be releasing a C100, C200 RF sort of camera soon, cinema camera. Now, the rumors are stating it's going to be a Super 35, so it's kind of in a different category. Nonetheless, that is essentially the A7S III competitor for videographers. That might be the better, depending on the price, that might be the better value. And that's kind of where I think things are going to get interesting. Is like, where is that going to price in? Is that going to price in under $5,000? If so, and you're just a videographer, you might want to look at either an A7S III versus that camera. But if you are a hybrid shooter, I don't think there's another camera that touches this type of quality and these type of features on the market right now. Now, a lot of people have been asking about the R6 and if this is going to address the R6's issues at all. The thing with the R6 is that it doesn't overheat in 4K, 30 frames per second, 24 frames per second. Normally, externally, it doesn't overheat in that mode. We already know that data. It's really just the 4K 60. So if someone wants to test that when they get the R6, I'm sure we'll figure it out, or we'll just see how long that recording will go for. I don't have that camera. I don't plan on getting that camera. The fact that there's no 4K modes it can shoot in internally that doesn't overheat is the reason why I canceled my R6 and went with the R5, because I don't always want to have a Ninja with me to record. So I like to have the flexibility of still being able to record on the R5 internally in 10-bit. You know, it's a little bit of a lower quality, but I want to be able to have the flexibility in being able to use that mode and not worrying about overheating. Whereas the R6, you have to marry it to a Ninja if you expect to get any type of reliable videography out of it. And that is going to raise the price in that as well. So the camera is $2,500, tack another $1,000 on there. You're at the price of an R5, but you're not at the price of an R5 plus a Ninja. So that's something to think about. That's up to you if you don't mind always having to have a Ninja with your camera to utilize that 4K. And you might not. I mean, you might not be shooting stuff like this. Like, this recording has gone on for at least half an hour now. And you can't rely on that with the R6. You just can't. That's the biggest bummer with all of these cameras is the internal, at least with the R5, the internal 4K HQ, and the R6 is just internal 4K period. It's not the fact that you get those recording times, it's that can you rely on them? And that's why I added that reliability column on my overheating chart. Internally, some of the modes you can rely on, but some of the other modes, they're completely unreliable. So I word it like this. Okay, I have a shoot coming up. I need exactly 25 minutes of footage. I'm gonna take the R5 by itself. We're gonna shoot it in 4K HQ. We should be good because that's what these numbers state. Hold on, my reliability column states that it's completely unreliable, and you may have a bad time. You may be very disappointed because you're not gonna get that number when you go out to film that. That's where that comes in, and the R6 has no modes whatsoever internally that can record without any sort of overheating. So that's the biggest miss for Canon, in my opinion, is the R6. That was the camera that I wanted. That was the camera that everyone wanted. That was supposed to be the perfect hybrid camera. That was supposed to be the A7 IV. That was supposed to be the camera that every YouTuber was gonna get so they could take amazing photos for social media and shoot great YouTube videos, have the IBIS, have the flip screen, have the great ergonomics, have the excellent RF mount, and then have a great 4K image. Unfortunately, it's so unreliable that I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. The only thing that I really recommend is the R5. And if you're a serious videographer, then I do recommend you pick up the Atomos Ninja with it. So I wanted to bring that all up today to kind of help ease anyone else's minds about all the weird eccentricities around the camera and just state what my thoughts are, my full thoughts on all of this overheating stuff. I'm really just gonna do the outside overheating test. I do want to take pictures, like I want to do a photography test and a full review, but I think maybe that'll all get rolled into one video, or I don't know exactly how I'm gonna work that out. But anyways, I appreciate everyone's support. Thank you all so much for the love, support, the sharing of the videos. It really means a lot. It helps the channel, and it's awesome to see that stuff, and hopefully we can get a clear answer from Canon. And subscribe if you want to see more videos and reviews like this. I have a lot of production gear that I can actually review, and I think I might start doing that. And of course, any new gear that I get in, I'll take a nice deep look at. So yeah, that's been it. All right, thanks everyone. Catch y'all later. Peace.